Welcome to the Socially Unfiltered podcast,
where we'll be taking you along for our deep dives and doom scrolls through social media, entrepreneurship, and pop culture.
We're your hosts, Lex and Veronica, and together we're looking at everything through an unfiltered lens on the things that shape our everyday lives and society.
So grab a drink and get ready to explore the uncharted territories of online trends, share candid conversations, and uncover the stories behind the headlines.
This is the Socially Unfiltered podcast. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Is anyone else burnt out? Are you burnt out? Are you feeling...
We need to make like an infomercial.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Does the burnout be real?
We asked y'all to vote on what you wanted today's episode to be on, and the most votes were for burnout. So here we are.
Here we are.
We've all been there. We've all experienced it. Maybe we're currently experiencing it. So we're just gonna dive in and chat a little bit about what it's like as a business owner and what you can do to mitigate that and help yourself eliminate it.
Yep. Yeah, burnout's real, and it shows up in different ways, and it can be caused from just doing the same thing for a long time. It can be caused from not working with the right people. It can be caused from not having like good systems in place. And we had kind of worded it as in the poll that we sent out, like burnout as a business owner, not so much like just as a social media manager. So we'll try to keep it like very light on the social media manager specific stuff. But I mean, obviously that's what we both experience and have a business in. So it's just very relevant to us. But yeah, burnout is real. It can be like debilitating sometimes. I think it shows up differently for everybody. I think one of the first things about burnout is acknowledging that you're going through it and acknowledging that you're experiencing it. And I think people sometimes get scared to admit that they're experiencing it because it can maybe sound like you're saying like, oh, I don't like what I do, or I don't like my business. I don't, want to do this anymore. And I don't necessarily think that's the only reason for it. So I think just acknowledging that you're experiencing it is one of the first things you can do to, acknowledge there's a problem, and then you can start to fix the problem.
Yeah, agree. And it comes in so many different forms. It can be just from not wanting to work at all and being like, I don't even want to touch this work. And it can go on for weeks, or it could just be that day, and you could just be tired. You could be annoyed. There's so many different like ways you can experience burnout. I think it's acknowledging it for sure, being like, why am I feeling this way? And what am I going to do to change the way that I feel? Because we often get like stuck in that. And I have for sure, like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm burnt out for months, but then I'm still taking on more work, and I'm still like, you have to keep going. You have to keep like working because no one else is going to work in your business, especially if you're like a solopreneur. Like, it's hard when you're burnt out and you don't have a team or like anyone to rely on. It's just you. So we totally get how hard it is to go through that and experience it while also having to like produce deliverables for clients at the same time and like be creative, especially if you're a social media manager or like in a creative role.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because I think it can obviously be caused by things that you're doing like repetitively in your business, but it also could be like, I feel like this is going to sound really superficial, but like, are you sick of like the desk that you're sitting at? Like, are you sick of seeing the same thing every day? Are you sick of not having like a solid personal life routine? Are there things in your personal life that are contributing to that? Like, it doesn't always have to be you're just sick of your business, which is why I think like people sometimes are scared to say that they're experiencing burnout, because like you can be going through something that at the end of the day, like the last thing you have the mental capacity for is your business. And unfortunately, that just is how it is sometimes. And again, that can be caused from overworking yourself in your business, but it could also be caused from other things that you could maybe change. Like, could you designate like a 1 hour morning routine to like make sure that everything you need to do that day is getting done? Or like, we'll talk a little bit more about this one later, but like even like sitting down in the morning and being like, okay, here are the top 3 things that I need to get done today, instead of being like, oh, here's this list of 50 things that I want to do today. And then at the end of the day, you're like, well, I only got through 3 of them. Like, carrying
Mhm.
over the other ones to tomorrow. Like, there's just, I think, a lot of things that can contribute to it, and it's not always that you're just sick of your business.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, yeah, we get a little burnt out in the mundane and the everyday, but there's also, like, the really good and comfortable parts of doing the same thing every day too. But I think, like, for me, when I was feeling like so burnt out and tired in my business and like just not wanting to do any of it, when I started like actually taking care of myself first, I
Mhm.
think that is how you mentioned like having that 1 hour, like even 2 hours in the morning. Like don't start
Oh,
work till
yeah, as
10 if
long as
it
you
has to
want.
be that way.
Yeah.
However long you need to like take care of you and do things for yourself. Like don't open your email in the morning. Don't answer anybody. Don't do any work until you're ready and you've taken care of yourself. You've like worked out, gone on a walk, like made
Mhm.
breakfast, had coffee, whatever it is, like sit outside, read, journal. I don't know. There's so many different self care things you can do. But once I
Mhm.
started doing that, when I started 75 Soft, I was like, I'm such a better person because now I showed up for myself before everybody else. When you
Mhm.
are just only taking care of other people or like only your work, and that's what I used to do. I woke up, I'd be on my phone on TikTok, or like I would just
Mhm.
start working right away, start answering people right away. You have zero time for yourself.
Mhm.
Like even if it's time in the afternoon that you take an hour just to do something for you without work and being interrupted by that, I think that makes all the difference. Like just
Mhm.
doing something for yourself is huge in
Mhm.
helping your burnout for sure.
Yeah,
Or like fun
100%
things,
agree.
doing fun things and during the week.
Mhm.
Like do things to switch up your routine if you just get so burnt out from like the same thing.
Mhm. I just saw a meme this morning and I was like, I can't believe quality sleep, exercise, and drinking enough water have the audacity to actually make me feel
Yeah,
better. I'm like,
I
it's so
know.
true though.
It
Like,
is.
yeah, it's so true. And it's not always just like working out. Like, it's exactly like you said, there's so many different things that you could do.
Yeah.
And I think something that also just kind of like segueing into the next part of like where burnout can come from. I think we do live in a world where like the hustle culture is
Mhm.
celebrated. Like people kind of brag, like, oh, I work. Well, actually, I feel like there's two ends of the spectrum with this. There's either the people on Instagram who are like, I work 4 hours a week and running a
Yeah.
full business. And I'm like, no, the fuck you don't. And then there's the
Yeah.
other people who
Unless
are
you have a
like,
team of 20, I don't believe you, but
mm-hmm,
okay.
yeah, but go off, sis. Or there's, I mean, this was me for a long time. Like I had a really hard time acknowledging that like you don't have to be doing a crazy amount of work in a short amount of time. And like just because you're working doesn't mean that you're actually being productive. Like I think
Yes.
the whole like girl boss thing has been like, yes, I think we all deserve to own and operate very successful businesses. And especially if you're putting in a ton of work and effort to it, but it's not the best setup if your business is requiring you to work like 18-hour days. Like that's
Mhm.
crazy, but I think there are a lot of people that see like just the time that you're spending on your business as your success. And I mean, we've talked about this before. Like it's a lot of like reprogramming your brain to understand
Mhm.
like even with workouts, like we both have said, like to me a workout wasn't good if it wasn't like super hard on your body and like you walked out drenched in sweat. Like now I'm totally fine with like a 15-minute YouTube video. And if that's what I
Mhm.
get done that day, that's what I get done that day. And it's
Yeah. And
kind of
it
the
makes
same.
a difference. It still is
Mhm.
changing you and like
Yes.
your even just your mindset. I mean, you might not even realize it, but those
Mhm.
little things do add up.
Mhm. Yep. And like feeling burnt out because you might feel behind, like especially just with the way that some business owners, and I mean, again, I'm really only speaking for social media manager content that we see. It's very much like, oh, I signed 12 new clients this week and I created a whole new landing page and set up an email sequence. Like, I literally just saw a thread the other day and it was like, I don't know what came over me, but I created my digital product, created a landing page, created an email sign up and an email sequence all in 30 minutes. And I'm like, I just refuse to believe you did all of that in
Yeah.
30 minutes, and if you did, like, how good is it actually? Like,
Mhm.
it's just I think we're surrounded a lot of the time on social media by people who are encouraging you to, like, burn yourself out, basically, and it's not realistic, like, what they're saying, and even, like, people showing their, like, morning routines, and it's making you feel bad that you don't sit for 30 minutes with a red light therapy mask on, and you
Yeah.
don't think
At
you're good
4
like,
AM.
yeah, you're not waking up at 4 AM, which also is so funny. So I just watched this girl's day in the life and it's perfectly aesthetic and like drinking the greens and walking on the treadmill and blah blah blah, and it's she has timestamps on it, and it's like I do this from 7:40 to 7:45, from 7:45 to 8:15, but in like four of her shots you can see a clock like in the background, and it's like 12:15 p.m. And I'm like, so you're I almost screenshotted it to you, but it was like super fast and I was like, no, I'm being crazy. But like I was like, so you're like, I get for the purpose of content you need to like recreate something, but it's like, just take into consideration that somebody probably isn't showering and getting ready for the day literally from 7:40 to 7:45 AM. Like, it
Mhm.
takes longer than 5 minutes to even, like, get in the shower. So,
Yeah.
I think we're just surrounded and see a ton of content that makes us think we need to be, like, doing more and doing better and doing all of these things, and, "Oh, I'm not doing enough," and, "This
Yeah.
person is better than me because they have 12 clients and they spend an hour in the morning, like, on their
Mhm.
routine." So, it can be a lot, especially if you're in the beginning of your business. I think that's when you're, like, spending the most time to figure out what works and
Mhm.
what doesn't work. But, yeah, I thought that was really funny. I was like, "Girl, I can see your 12:15 PM clock in the background, and you're saying it's
I
7:40 in the
That's
morning."
so fu I think a lot of people just want everyone to see a peek in their calendar to, like, prove that they're busy and they're hustling and they're working
Mhm.
so hard. It's like, you don't need to give me your time stamp frame by frame, like, every second of the day, what you've got done since you've been up this morning for
Mhm.
me to, like, believe that you're successful or that you are getting things done. Like, just get it done. Instead,
Mhm.
like, if I literally got on every single day and was, like, posting about what I needed to do, what I did, and then, like, checking in after, I'm like, I wouldn't get anything done because 'cause I'd just be spending all that time posting about it. Like, I'm just
Mhm.
actually doing shit, and
Right.
I mean, to each their own, like, totally feel free. If that's what keeps you accountable, like, we've always said that, like, go for it. If you wanna post about that, it keeps you accountable, but don't get so caught up in, like, "I have to post this or people aren't gonna think I'm, like, working hard enough or that I'm
Right.
successful or that I'm a good business owner because I have such great time management." Like, you don't need to prove
Mhm.
anything to anyone. So I think, yeah, like, it doesn't need to be celebrated that you are working 18 hours a day or that you're
Right.
working 4 hours a day. Like, I think there's everyone's entitled to their own happy medium and whatever works for
Mhm.
you, but, yeah, we've been in those situations where we've had to work those really long hours and then go from there to decide on what do we need to do to, like,
Fix
for our
this.
mental health and to fix it. Yeah,
Mhm.
because it really, truly, like, has you questioning everything and wanting to quit, and
Yeah,
I think I speak for
literally.
a lot of business owners. If we're not on LinkedIn every couple months and looking at corporate jobs, then are we really
Mhm.
business owners?
No, literally, if you're not trying to get out of your industry, like, once a month, like, are you even really in love with your business?
And I think so many people are afraid to admit that because they think it's failure or that they're ready to quit something, and it's like,
Mhm.
that doesn't mean you're a failure or that you can't look at what's out there or
Mhm.
apply for certain things and see if it's actually what you want, but I also think the grass isn't always greener on the other
Mhm.
side.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons. I mean, I think we've all ended up on Indeed at some point,
Yeah.
just deciding it's
I just did,
time.
like, last week, dude. I lost 2 clients, and I was like, "Anyways, LinkedIn."
So, anyway, what remote marketing positions are available? Yeah.
Literally,
I
and
mean,
there's
it
none.
happens, and, I mean,
Mhm.
I don't wanna say
Yeah.
thankfully you've never done that, because I think even if you were to do that, it wouldn't, like, be a failure at anything. It's I mean, there's pros and cons to literally all of it. Like, literally every work situation, every job setup,
Mhm.
there's gonna be pros and cons, and
And you're gonna get burnt out no matter what. Like, I don't
yeah.
think anyone's like, "I've never been burnt out."
No, I've never had a job that I at some point wasn't like,
No.
"Okay, I'm really over this," and
Mhm.
whether that's a feeling that comes and goes, like, when I was bartending, I got to a point
Oh
where,
my
like, I
god,
would
yeah.
see certain people walk in and I'd be like, "I literally can't speak to you today, like, I have to go walk out the back door for 5 minutes and
Oh,
be
the amount of
outside."
times I've cried in the
The
cooler in the
walk-in.
back, the walk-in, so many times I have
Mhm.
sobbed
Yeah.
back there 'cause I'm like, "I can't do this anymore," but then you just keep going and you have to
Mhm.
figure out what boundaries do you have to put in place and like what
Mhm.
hours and days do you decide to work? Do you have to scale back? Like, do you have to hire a team? I think those are
Mhm.
all things you have to consider when you're getting to that point because you can't like be your best self or your best like business owner or like friend or partner or anything if you're not taking care
Mhm.
of yourself and you're so burnt out. Like, I feel like it literally like trickles into every part of your life when you're
Mhm.
going through something like that and it's really
Mhm.
hard. So
Yeah, and it makes it, like, hard to enjoy. Like, I know there were points that I was at where, like, I don't know, we'd go to the movies or, like, go out to dinner or something, and I'm literally just sitting there the whole time being like, "I have so much shit that I need to be doing." Like, I have
Yes.
so much work that I should be doing. I mean, I even just said that to you yesterday. I, like, went to go meet a
Mhm.
friend for food and was like, "I shouldn't have done that because I have a lot of work to be doing right now," but it's not the end of the world that I did that, and I think at one point, I know for myself, I don't know if I can speak for everybody on this, but, like, at one point, there was a time where I literally was like, "Oh my god, if I don't say no to this recreational or social activity and I don't do this work, like it's not going to get done." And I think there's definitely times where it's like obviously you're on like deadlines and stuff, but for
Mhm.
me like when I said that yesterday, like it was just there's always stuff I could be doing. It's not that I was pushing off a deadline or like something wasn't getting done because I
Yeah.
went to go do that. And it wasn't always like that. Like there were definitely times where I was working with way too many fucking people, saying yes to way too many things. I
Yeah.
wasn't acknowledging that I would get work done from certain times to certain times. Like, I remember coming home from stuff at 10 p.m. and sitting down to, like, finish work that day. Like,
Mhm.
not that that doesn't never happen now, but it that was, like, my regular. Like, that was normal for me to every day of my life, no matter what I left to go do, I came home knowing that I had work to do, and that came a lot from just working with too many people at one time and
Mhm.
undercharging and needing to work with that many people.
Yeah, same.
So there's a lot of different, like, boundaries that you can implement. I mean, even I know we've talked about it before, like, time blocking is my shit. Like, I if I see a time block on my calendar, like, it's very easy for me to be like, "Okay, if I do this task for the next hour, and then I do this task for the hour after that, like, I'll probably finish everything that I desperately need to get done today." And it's
Mhm.
just a lot of also figuring out, like, do you work certain days? Do you work certain times? Do you answer client emails super late? Is somebody asking you for a super last minute revision that, like, you're gonna have to leave what you're doing to go home and do for them? Like, that's it's this is, like, kind of tricky though, because, like, technically you are their service provider, so you do need to be doing the things that you're contracted to do for them, but that's where things like, "Oh, I have a week approval process." Like, "You have a week to get me all of the revisions you need on anything." Like, are you implementing the boundaries with your clients that
Yeah.
help you stay as your best self? Because it's not that we wanna say any of that to just be like, "Nope, I'm not doing that for you." It's literally those last minute things are where I would find myself being like, "I don't even wanna do this anymore. I hate this person. I hate their work. I hate our content." Like,
Mhm.
but now I don't really work with any like, everybody that I work with, even if they were to, like, ask me something last minute, it would be so out of the norm that I don't think it would bother me that much.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I was only working with people who were like, "Hey, we need to change this entire caption before it's posted in
Mhm.
12 minutes." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay." And this was
Same.
before ChatGPT, so you couldn't just ask them to help you with it. Just kidding. But yeah, definitely working on some boundaries. I know that's like a very vague statement because it's going to be so different for everybody. But I think even just starting with some work hours, start with some work days. Like for me, I used to work all day on the weekends. And now it's like I'll do some stuff on Saturday mornings. And if it's not all wrapped up by then obviously you'll have to do it until it's wrapped up. But I
Yeah.
go my entire week now, like knowing I have to get everything done because I don't work on Saturday nights or Sundays anymore. Like, it
Mhm.
just is what it is. Even if that means like working a little bit later, earlier in the week, you obviously have to get everything done. But one of the benefits of what we do is you can kind of move your schedule around a little bit. So,
Yeah.
obviously, very flexible in that, but also very important to know what needs to be done when.
Yeah, and I think eliminating any distractions too, because I especially notice when I'm like filming a day in the life or something, I'm like, holy shit, sis, you're texting a lot. Like, I'm on my
Yeah.
computer, I'm just like popping off all day. Mostly it's just us talking back and forth, I feel like. But
I was
I'm like,
gonna say it's always you that I'm like,
it's
"Hey,
just
I'm
us.
gonna go
I'm like, okay,
MIA
we have
for
to
a little
log in
while."
now. Like, I
Yeah,
really wish all we could do was yap all day, but
literally.
that's the hardest part is the distractions, I just noticed
Mhm.
how much of my time I get back when I'm like, "Okay, put on do not disturb, don't
Mhm.
answer the texts," and honestly, I might just, like, remove my text message app on my computer because
Mhm.
I feel like that gets me in trouble because 'cause I'm on do not disturb, but then I see the red pop up on my computer, and I'm like, "What's everyone saying? Who's texting me?
Oh,
What
see,
did they
I'm
say?" And
so
then
good at ignoring
I
it.
still get no, I whenever I see a notification, I just need to open it, so
I
I'm like
don't.
subconsciously, that's what happens to me at least. If you have that self-restraint like Lex, like, good for you. I do not, because 'cause I'm like, I need to see what's being said, I need to yap.
I'm like,
So
"I'll
that's
figure it
a
out later."
distraction I've noticed in myself. I also feel like
Mhm.
I'm really ADHD if I'm, like, doing multiple things at the same time. I tend
Mhm.
to, like, start a ton of things and not finish them, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, "Okay, I started all these things and I don't feel accomplished because I didn't finish any of them." I was, like,
Mhm.
all over the place, like, doing laundry, then I noticed this was unorganized, so I started organizing this. Like, yesterday, I started organizing all of our spice cabinets in the
I
middle of
just did
doing
that yesterday too! That's so weird.
That's really weird.
I did all of our kitchen cabinets, like the pots, the pans, everything. Also,
Oh, yeah, I got
the
distracted. So I was doing dishes, and then I got distracted by the
something
spices that I
else.
noticed in the corner of my eye, so I decided to
Right.
do that, and then I didn't finish my dishes, but I finished that, so I'm like, "Oh, great," and then
Mhm.
in the middle of that, I was editing a video for Benny, and I'm like, "This is not good for my brain." Like,
Mhm.
so I think distractions and, like, the time management and, like, putting things on your calendar of actually what you need to get done, like, from this time to
Mhm.
this time, only focusing on this and eliminating all the distractions. If you have to put your phone in the other room, if you have to, like,
Mhm.
delete your messages app, whatever it is, like, I think that can definitely help too because I am spending so many hours, I feel, just, like, on my
Mhm.
phone or doing things that aren't work, and then I'm like, "Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock and I still haven't finished work." But was I really
Mhm.
working that whole time? No.
No.
I was getting distracted every 2 seconds, so I couldn't
Right.
finish my work.
Yeah, hold on, I have to go back to the text message thing quick because I realized when you said, like, the red notification bubble, I don't even see that because I do the, like, minimizing thing on. So, like, when I look at my desktop, I don't have a menu at the bottom. It doesn't come up unless I go to it and it, like, comes up. So,
Oh.
I don't actively see these, like, notifications come up, and I honestly don't usually ever
Oh.
click into any of that because I have all of my tabs open. So, if I
Mm.
even if I do see it though, I am good about being like, "Whatever," and I think you do like, I don't have my personal text connected to my computer. It's
Oh, I
just
do.
yeah, see, it's just my work ones, which usually are not very often, and I know, like, if it is, it's
It's
either
me.
our yeah, it's either our group chat, but
It's
it's funny
me!
though, like, we literally, like, give each other a heads
Jessica!
up.
I'm in here.
"Jessica, I'm going on Do Not Disturb." Like, I literally we have to, like, give each other a heads up where I'm like,
I
"I'm
know.
not dead in a ditch, I'm just going on Do Not Disturb,"
Yeah.
because, like, for us to not answer in a group chat for, like, hours at a time is, like,
Yeah.
abnormal, but it is very, like I get like, it is hard to probably see these notifications continuously coming and, like, popping up on that, but, yeah, I keep, like, my
Mhm.
menu minimized so that, like, I don't even see what that number's at, and my computer's on do not disturb 24/7 because I could not deal with the chiming of a notification.
Yeah. No, I need to do that because 'cause I'm finding myself back in that, like, distracted state,
Mhm.
and I don't like it because I feel like I'm not getting as much done. So,
Mhm.
just being real, like, we all struggle with that even
For sure.
almost 4 years into business, I'm still over here, like, distracted and
Mhm.
not the best time management, so it's still things I'm, like, actively working on,
Mhm.
and it's hard, but you gotta do it because no one else is gonna do it for you unless you're, like, hiring a team, which is a whole other aspect
Mhm.
of it if you're feeling burnt out, like, that's when I first hired Gabby is when I had, like, 6 clients by myself, and I was like, "Okay, I can't do this anymore only by myself." I was so burnt out, I wasn't spending any time with friends or family, and,
Mhm.
like, I was working late nights, and it was just getting to be way too much, so that's when I hired Gabby, and she helped me so much in my business and to not
Mhm.
feel like I hate my business because I didn't. I was just
Mhm.
doing way too much that I couldn't handle as one person.
Mhm.
So, it's all about that too. If, like, you need better systems or you need to hire somebody on your team just to minimize that a little bit for yourself,
Mhm.
know that comes with a lot of work as well, like training somebody and like trusting somebody. It's really difficult to do. And I
Mhm.
don't know that I'll do it again because I feel like I got very lucky with Gabby that I'm
Mm.
like, I don't
Gabby, you're
know if I
never
would.
going anywhere.
No, literally. Like, I don't know if I could do it again because I feel like I got really lucky with my
Mhm.
first try, I feel,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't happen again.
For sure. Yeah, and I think too it's obviously delegating tasks or hiring somebody is a very, like, logistical thing that you need to look at, and that was where, when I was really experiencing it was when I was working with too many people and undercharging myself and realizing, like,
Yes.
I don't even have, like, the budget to hire somebody because I'm not being paid accurately for what I should be. So I think it really
Mhm.
just helps you kind of like to take that step back and exactly like you said, like the systems that you're using. Like when I first started, my onboarding process was very hands on. Like I had to send every little part, the next step, here's this, here's that. And now it's very automated. Like, they submit an inquiry, I check it, email them back, and send them a link to set up a time to talk. And then from there, they get sent the questionnaire. Like, it's all very, I don't want to say automated in a way where it's a bad thing, but you can maybe give yourself back 30 minutes a day for
Yeah.
automating some part of your process. So that's also something to look at. Like, even if you maybe aren't in a place to completely delegate to somebody, you can maybe look into how different platforms could help you. I know Honeybook is amazing for like automating that entire process. Like, you can set, like, okay, if they say yes to this, they get this questionnaire. And if they say yes to
Mhm.
this, then this invoice automatically sends. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways to help alleviate some of the overworking that you might be
Yeah.
experiencing. But I also think burnout is can be a sign of maybe it's time for you to think about doing something a little bit differently. Like I used to get very burnt out when I was doing a lot of branding packages for people because it's a lot of hands on. It's a lot of meetings every week. It's a lot of like just going back and forth about stuff. Whereas social media management, yes, that too, but it's kind of like, okay, here's our content. Like, do you approve it? And then you go back and forth about that. Like,
Mhm.
branding is a little bit more like we're sitting on Pinterest scrolling for an hour. And like, not that I don't enjoy that, but
Yeah.
when that was one of my main services, it took way too long. Like, it just was a super long process that I was like, okay, I think I need to pivot and like not really offer that as much. And I mean, even like Shelby, like what I'm doing with her with like her business rebranding, like I didn't do a lot of like the actual rebranding. We're just taking her new branding and putting it into stuff and like applying it to her business because I don't think I would want to do full from scratch branding projects
Yeah,
anymore.
it's a lot of
Mhm.
work. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's yeah, just seeing what you enjoy doing. Because I remember also being burnt out when I was doing things I didn't want to be, like doing ads or, like, website
Mhm,
stuff, like,
mhm.
I don't like that
No,
stuff.
email
So,
marketing,
obviously, you're
not
gonna
my
get burnt out by doing things that you don't enjoy doing,
Mhm,
but I also think the biggest thing was, like, undercharging and taking on way too many clients, like, I feel like I was
mhm.
always burnt out because of that,
Yep.
is you just aren't making enough income, so you're like, "I need more clients," but then you take on more clients, you have the income, but then you have to do 3 times as much work, and then you're so
Mhm,
burnt out and don't feel like you're being compensated properly, like, that was my always my biggest issue. So take a
mhm,
look at, like, your time, how much you're charging, your value, like, all of those things, take it into account and be like, "Is this accurate to what
mhm,
I am trying to, like, do in my business? Like, what am I trying to achieve? I want to have like 4 clients and make the amount of income that I was making with 6 or 7 clients. And then
mhm,
you slowly start to like make that happen. And I did make that happen when I was feeling that burnout. I'm like, I need to increase my packages. I need to spend less time at like doing content shoots when they're not paying
mhm,
for that time. I need to stop giving extra for free. Like there's all these little things
mhm,
that I was doing that was causing me to feel that burnout.
mhm,
So it's just like taking a look at everything and assessing like where can you pivot and change and like increase your pricing or like change your packages. Like you don't need to offer 10 posts a week for like $1,000 a month. Like that's insane. So I
literally
just really
insane.
had to reflect on like my packages, my pricing, and who I wanted to work with because
Mhm,
that's a huge part of it too, is like the people that trust you and are going to allow you to do your job and not micromanage you, because that
Mhm.
will also burn you out, is when you're just like working with people that don't see your value and you always have to prove yourself to. I think it causes a lot of burnout too.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I think something else that's super important is allowing yourself to take those breaks. Like when I would
Mhm.
say, like, I'd be sitting at dinner and be like, oh my God, like I have to go home and work. Like
Yeah.
that work might be waiting for you when you get back, but allow yourself to be in that. Like, don't try to rush through things just because you know there's work like waiting for you at home. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot that you can do to kind of like reflect on exactly what's causing that burnout. Like, is it the excess work? Is it that you're not vibing totally with the people that you're working with? Are you working with too many people? And I think we've all been there. And if you're listening to this as somebody who maybe is a little bit early on in their business and maybe is just starting to realize these things, like, oh my God, I'm undercharging, which means I'm working with too many people and going
Mhm.
to get burnt out, like you learn all of this stuff with time. And I just said to somebody yesterday, I am very lucky that I'm at a point where I can choose yes or no. Do I want to work with somebody new? And I can really
Mhm.
take my time to like understand if their business is something that I would like working in. Whereas, 3, 4 years ago, I was like, yep, 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 yep.
Mhm.
Email, yep, got it. Ads, you want that? I got you.
Yeah,
Like, and it just doesn't have
everything.
to, yeah, and you do eventually get to a point where you don't have to choose, or you can
Mhm.
choose if you do or
Yeah,
do not wanna take something on.
you have to decide what's gonna be worth it for you and what isn't.
Mhm,
We used to be yes people, and I get in the beginning of your business, like, you wanna say yes to everybody and get that experience, but
mhm,
I was talking to someone recently, and they're like, "I just keep getting these, like, low-paying clients, and then they refer people to me, so then I'm keep getting even more referrals that are low paying," and I'm like, "Yeah, the more you accept that into your life, into your business, the more of that's gonna keep coming at
mhm,
you." Like, it's just how it works. Like, yeah, you accept that $500 a month client, which is fucking absurd. No one should ever be charging under $1,000, not in this economy, ever. Anyway, that's a whole other story, but, like, if you're getting that client and then they have a friend who wants social media and they're like, "It's so cheap." Yeah, go reach out to her. They reach out to you and you take them on. Like, you are setting up your business to be that cheap route for business owners
mhm,
or whatever your business is. Like, if you are going to be marketing yourself and presenting yourself as that cheap service, like, that's what you're gonna keep getting. So,
mhm,
just make sure that you're taking the time to actually figure out who your ideal client is, what they're willing to pay, and, like, don't settle just because it's a client, because they're just gonna set you up for failure in the end, because 'cause you're gonna keep
mhm,
taking on those clients, and you're never gonna be able to get out of that, because 'cause they're gonna keep referring those people to you.
mhm.
So, I noticed that too with when I was working with people. I was like, "Oh my god, I
Yeah,
keep getting just, like, these low-paying clients," but it was about how I was presenting myself on social media, what I was posting, but also, like, who I was working with. Like,
mhm,
it was keeping me in this little box where I was like, "Oh, I'm only worthy of, like, these clients," but I
mhm.
wasn't.
Yep, and we even said we just talked about this the other day. It's incredibly hard in the moment to, like, maybe let a client go, but you know that all you're
Mhm.
doing is opening up the room for
Yeah.
somebody better to come along, and I know that that's a very, I don't wanna say touchy thing to say, like, it's a, I don't know exactly what word I'm looking for, but, like, obviously, you're not always in a financial situation to willingly let a client go, but I know the way that we look at it is, like, if we ever are down a client or, like, if somebody stops working with us, like, we use that time to solely make our business better. We
Yeah.
try to work on back end things. We work on getting some content posted to make sure that people
Mhm.
know we're accepting new clients, and
Yeah.
just really reflecting on who you want to fill that spot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going through that currently, like, losing a
Mhm,
client 2 clients in the last, 2 months, and I was like, "Oh my god," like, yeah, this sucks, and you can let yourself feel that for a second and be like, "This sucks, like, my income's about to drastically change," but
mhm,
it is a cycle you're gonna be in as a business owner, probably forever, unfortunately. Like, it's just how
mhm,
it goes, and at this point, you can either sit and sulk in it, which isn't gonna change anything. Like,
mhm,
today, I was like, "It is what it is." Like, it just is what it is, and I just have to keep moving forward. I was working yesterday on, like, other posts that I wanna do to, like,
mhm,
say that I have an open spot, or, like, fill that
mhm,
time with doing something else instead of just being like, throw my hands up and just, like, be upset and not do anything
mhm,
and just expect something else to come along and not put in any work. Like, it's always gonna be ebbs and flows, and it sucks in the moment, but it has never ever not worked out. Like, I feel like it has always brought something better. If you believe in that and if you're like actually cultivating that and working towards that, I think something better always comes along that
Mhm.
you don't know in the moment. Like, of course it sucks in the moment and you're like the uncertainty, you're not sure, you don't know what's going to happen, but it will all be okay and it all works
Mhm.
out, and it might take a couple months. Like, we've both been through that. Like, it can take
Mhm.
weeks, months, whatever, but something comes along and you're like, okay, I was ready for
Mhm.
something new, and you just have to embrace it more than like go against it.
Yep. Yeah, it will always work out, especially if you're keeping the positive attitude about it and just know that there's somebody waiting for you out there to fill that spot that's even better.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
all in all, I just think you gotta analyze where your time is being spent and who you're spending it with and the like root of the issue, and coming up with a solution so you're not just
Mhm.
stuck in that one place.
Yes. And we can definitely revisit this topic. We have to keep it a little short today because I spent a little too much time yapping before we started recording. But we can definitely come back to it and
Yeah, if
just
there's anything we didn't cover, let us
Mhm.
know. Or if you have any like questions or you're dealing with a situation, like our
Yes.
DMs are always open. Let us know on Instagram.
Because we've
Message
been
us
there.
whenever, yeah, any scenario you need help with a client, like let us know. But we also cover a ton of this in the Social Media Manager Business Blueprint, which is always
Yes.
linked in the show notes. All about, you know, your time management, your systems, and all of the things we just covered, but just in a little bit more depth when you're starting a business. So that's always available for you too. Plug,
Yeah.
plug, plug.
Just got a little plug. But yeah,
Yep.
we can definitely revisit this. Let us know if we forgot anything. Let us know again if you're experiencing it. Because if you're experiencing it, we promise we have also experienced it and we are
Yeah.
always down to talk about it. So slide into our DMs on Instagram and yeah, everything else is linked below. And we will talk to you guys next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging. If you aren't sick of us yet, jump over to the Socially Unfiltered Pod Instagram.
Check out the Social Media Manager Blueprint.
And everything else you'll need can be found in the show notes.
And we'll see you next Monday.